Hello, Young's daughters, family, and friends. We're coming to you today because I want to introduce a great sister friend of mine. And her name is Rosa Hernandez, and she's with Harbor Hospice. And my goal is to have during this interview is to share what is hospice and what does Harbor do for us, and what type of services you're gonna, if you had questions, and how to get in touch with her. So at this time, Rosa, would you like to explain a little bit about who you are and how you came about hospice?
Thank you. I am Rosa Hernandez, as she mentioned, and I am the community educator for coordinator for Harbor Hospice. I have 17 years in hospice care and actually was scared to deal with death and dying when I first came in 1998 doing record consulting for the very first hospice here in Temple. It's very interesting. 2 years they were trying to offer me positions and it was like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. Finally, one day she said, don't answer anything. Just come back in the morning at 10 o'clock. So I did. And somebody answered yes, and I didn't think it was me. So then I kind of realized, okay, there must be a Holy Spirit following me. And so as the 2 years, I realized that this is my calling. This is what I am supposed to do. So that's really how I got into hospice, and why I am so passionate about it is because life and death is so intimate.
Absolutely. And, even out of retirement, you come back and you found Harbor, or maybe Harbor found you. And so tell us a little bit about the company and its diversity, and what you're hoping to do with this company in the next year or so.
Well, one of the things is, of course, hospice is taking care of people at end of life, and Medicare, Medicaid, and TRICARE pay 100%. So we know that it's, there's no cost to the families. And so when I was approached about coming back, it was not only hospice care, it's palliative care, which is not as many visits as hospice, but you have a team that's checking up on you. And then the other thing that really intrigued me was an inpatient unit. We do not have that. That's a freestanding inpatient unit where anybody can go into this inpatient unit, and this is what Harbor is going to be bringing to our area, and that's pretty exciting.
That is exciting. So when
is.
somebody gets on hospice care, okay, first, what is maybe the eligibility or the requirements to be on hospice?
Okay, well, you have to have a terminal condition that there is no cure for. And there's many a list of those, we think of the cancers, but there's also the dementias, the end stage dementias, the Lewy body, the MS, ALS, those other diseases, kidney disease, liver disease, lung issues, heart issues. So there's a lot of qualifying diagnoses. What hospice says is, if we think that in 6 months you will not be with us, so it's April now, so if we're thinking that by Thanksgiving or Christmas your disease is going to continue to decline, then you would be eligible for hospice. But Sabrina, let's talk about, what if that doesn't happen? Well, that disease is still not curable. You're still having signs and symptoms that the disease is progressing. So you would still probably be eligible for hospice care.
And so what about if you, I hear the 6 months, and that's kind of like a general term, but what happens if beyond 6 months? What if, can you stay on hospice longer than 6 months?
You can stay on hospice longer than 6 months. Once again, as long as the condition is progressing in its natural course, then definitely, but if you don't, then we would find another provider that could help take care of you, such as home health, or we do have some private pay agencies that families, do hire at their cost to help them take care of their loved one if hospice is not involved.
Wonderful. And, because of end of life, it's a very broad concept for a lot of people. They don't know how to plan. They don't know what advance directives do. They don't know if DNRs are important. And a lot of these are essential estate planning. And another one that, even with our funeral home, we push really hard. It's called an authorized agent form. And that appoints one person to take care of all of the financial and responsibilities after you pass away, because many of those forms are for the living. And then there's a subsequent form that picks up. And a lot of people, just because they have their wills, a lot of times it goes absent. It's not in the will to show who's in charge. And so we want to encourage everybody that with certain staffs, when you receive hospice care, a lot of times this is provided to you. So talk a little bit about the quality of care and who is going to be in their homes visiting them.
Okay. And Sabrina, you mentioned a very good point before I touch on to answer the question is you talked about the advanced directives, the power of attorneys and all of those. But do you know that those are really while they're alive to make those decisions unless you have the durable power of attorney? So this form that you're talking about is someone that they get to do the funeral arrangements. That is absolutely awesome because, you know, a lot of times there's so many families and we can't get a hold of them. So if that's also prepared and done before, that is the greatest gift that you can give the family, like your will, like your pre-needs and things like that. It's you know, it's just a good gift to give the families.
Oh yeah.
Talking about the team, though, we have, of course, the nurse coordinator that goes in and does the initial start of care, the initial assessment, starting to get the information. She's what I call the eyes and ears for the patient, for the doctor, and for you know, the other team members and the family. So she's really kind of the nucleus there that kind of holds everything together and gets the process going. Then she talks to the medical director to make sure that they are meeting the criteria that Medicare sets for us so that they can get hospice service. The other teams, it's the chaplain, social worker, volunteer, and then the aide, of course, that goes into the homes to help provide that hands-on care, which a lot of families don't want a lot of people coming in, and I get it, you know, it's overwhelming. So what I guide families to do is, okay, are you a morning person or are you an afternoon person? You know, tell us, talk to us, tell us what's specific to you. And this is why every family in every case is so unique and different, because not everybody gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
There's some of us that like to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the morning, in the afternoon, because we stay up all night. So, you know, we ask families those types of questions where we don't really think that that's important, but it's very important because if we schedule the visits to our convenience and say, you know, well, we're going to go see you at 7 o'clock in the morning because, you know, you're you're the first person that I'm going to go see. Well, that's not an individualized care plan, for one. And the other is that, you know, we're not really helping that family because they've never gotten up at 7 o'clock in the morning. So why would they now? I mean, you know, that just doesn't make sense to me. So it's things like that that really makes the hospice unique and different, is that we listen to the people. And that's what we kind of base our timing and our care for them.
Okay. And I like that. I like the that it's tailored to them, because a lot of times during that end of life transitioning, it's not. You feel like you're giving up your autonomy, you're giving up your rights, you're giving up the DNRs, you're giving up, you know. And so that is so important to give that back to the patients and the families, and the fact that you're meeting them where that they need them, not only spiritually or non-spiritually with your chaplaincy, or you know, meeting them with their care. You know, what I do like about your services too, what I've come to realize is how being bilingual is helping, because a lot of times, you and I had mentioned before that people revert back to their long-term memory and they go back to their native roots, and so they may in time forget how to interact, and then go back to Spanish maybe naturally. And so the fact that you guys are diverse in your care is really important too, and cultural awareness, because we do have a tendency to go back. So it's important, and I'm glad you are able to, with all of your resources. I mean, you and I have been friends for nearly 10 years now, and one commonality we have is the resources and the service, and a servant's heart, being being Christian followers, but talk a little bit more about the resources that, even though Harbor is who they are, but maybe what you do extra that's different than most hospices.
Well, when I talk about community and when we talk about resources, resources is what is available for the needs of the families. When we go into a home, I never know what questions I'm going to get, so to be good at what I do and to show that I care is I have connections to that pretty much there isn't a question that I can't answer or that I need that we cannot get for them. For instance, what happens when you've declined so much that you can't cut your own yard? You still have to have your yard cut.
Yeah.
They don't think about that, but that bothers them, because most people love to have their house clean. Most of them like to have their yards cut. They don't think that they need that. What about cooking? When you're declining, you're not cooking as much. You don't have the strength to cook. You want to cook, just like your appetite decreases, so does your ability to function. So when we look at resources and things that are available, it's what do they need at the house? Are they going to have to move? Are they going to have to sell their home? Well, I network with realtors. So what I bring to the table as a community resource and educator is this is how I can help you take care of yourself and your business. I'm not getting into your business. I ask you, if you think of something as bothering you, and if you think it twice, let's talk about it because there is some help. Just because Harbor, that's not what we do. We do hospice care, but that doesn't mean that we don't know someone that can help you and relieve that stress that we know that's going to slow down that disease process.
I love that you have the medical approach as well as a non-medical, because it's so important. It really does take a community to care for somebody who's passing away or transitioning. And so
It really does.
Yeah. Is there any other common facts or myths that you would like to touch on to help educate people today?
Is you get on hospice and you die right away. They give you morphine, they give you medicines, and you die. Well, that can be true because a lot of times we get people late, where this is a 6-month plus benefit. We typically do 6 months work in 2 or 3 days. So yes, by the time that we get them on service, the part that they don't talk about is, oh, they were already. So, yeah, we did have to give them pain medicine to provide comfort, pain control, but that last breath was going to happen with or without hospice. The disease was already progressing. So that's the other flip side. One is why do we think that people wait so long to be on hospice? And I think the main, there's a couple of reasons. One is they think that hospice is just truly focusing on your dying, that is really not our focus. We do help you repair. We do help you understand the changes that you're going to be seeing, what's happening to your body, what's happening physically and psychologically, the spiritual part of that, because all of that is part of the transition of life. But the other thing is, how does that person feel about dying? And there's a lot of fear in that. We don't want to leave our loved ones. We don't want to leave what we know for the unknown, so it's helping them work through that. Also helping the families accept that their loved one doesn't want those treatments anymore. That's causing more harm than good to them. They don't want to be throwing up all the time with the chemotherapy. Their body is so debilitated that it can't tolerate that. Tube feedings, the body's not absorbing anything, it's shutting down, so the tube feeding is causing more harm than good. It's having those types of conversations with people that we can help them understand what their loved one is going through. But I think, Sabrina, the main part is to help families understand that it truly is about the person that is getting ready to take that last breath, and make sure that they are in a good and peaceful place that's important to them. So we try to take the importance out of the family, not that they're not important, but we do have to remember that family's not the one that's taking the last breath their loved one
Yeah.
is.
Well, and I think that's definitely true. I do believe that, grief starts with the caregivers, through our bereavement center, that when we started the concept of Young's Daughters Funeral Home and Bereavement Center, was grief starts while you're caregiving. And so we decided to start housing and hosting many of these grief classes. We will definitely be sending them out to you guys, and having health fairs. I know you've mentioned you have one coming up. Would you like to talk about your health fair?
I would. I'm very excited. We used to do this for many years. It used to be just doing it for the health of it. So we're going to just do a kind of a little reunion, bring in multiple resources. We are inviting APS, we're inviting chiropractors, funeral directors, such as yourself, because we do love that you are given all these extra bereavement things too, not only the good services that you provide, veteran care. We thank you for taking care of our veterans too. So there, we're inviting Area Agency on Aging, we're inviting the health department, the workforce solutions, because we definitely want people to come and get a multiple type of information and education that's going to help them make informed decisions. And this is what it's about. It's the community making informed decisions for themselves and their families. And that's
Absolutely.
why we
Well, you're a vital resource. I know I got you on speed dial for my personal and professional life. And so let's tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. Would you mind giving them your contact information and ways that they can find more resources from you?
Absolutely. My cell phone number is 254-624-5050. Text or call, and I will respond. If I'm with a family, it might take me a little bit longer to respond, but I give you the same respect. If I'm with you, I'll return calls. So just, with the understanding, we were also talking about, I did want to talk about the wait time, because a lot of times we look at and we think that we might have to wait for the hospice nurse, because hospice does not move into people's homes. We are available 24 hours, and the verbiage there is we are available 24 hours. That means that we will go into your home anytime the need arises. We just don't move in with you, and we're not there 24 hours. We're available 24 hours. So when there's a change in condition, or you have a question about your medication, or just something is you just need some kind of help, you call hospice. You call our main number, 254-218-4290, and they will, assess what's going on. And then immediately they call the nurse, and that nurse is already, looking up at your records, looking up to see what medications you have on board, calling the medical director, calling the pharmacy to let them know that we might need to get some additional medications that night. And we might have to wait an hour for the nurse, or if there's an accident on the road and the nurse gets stuck in the middle, you might have to wait a little bit longer. We cannot change the life events, the weather and inclement weather and things like that might hinder us from reaching you within that hour that we like to respond to it. But if you go to the ER, you're going to have a longer wait. You're also not going to be able to get that medication filled that night. So to me, that is huge. That is huge, huge, huge benefit for people, because when you're hurting and you need something and you still have to wait, another 12 to 24 hours to get that relief, that's sad. That's sad to me. So that is really one of the things I do appreciate about hospice, is that they go to the home and they're able to pretty much manage anything. We can do x-rays. We can, we've done lab works before. So there are things that we can do pretty much in the home that's needed that would be controlling that pain.
Well, sister, you are a mighty, mighty woman, and I am so thankful to have you. I hope that the YouTube followers and Facebook and everybody appreciates this, because it is some vital information. And so I just want to say thank you again for coming on here with us.
Well, thank you, Sabrina, and thank you for all of your service. I appreciate you and love you, and thanks again.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye-bye.